young phenom, Hunter Greene, first overall pick. April 16th, his last start, I think he set a record, right? 39 pitches above 100 miles an hour, which is like, I want to say the record. If I'm wrong there, no worries. But we'll break a lot of things down mechanically. And if you guys want more context, or if you're interested in stuff like this, I highly encourage you to check out my A Complete Guide to Pitching Mechanics ebook. It's about 188 pages worth of pitching mechanics content that I took 2 years to make, and it's one of my most proudest, is that a word? Projects. All right, so what we're going to do is take a look at Hunter Greene. I should have them both synced up here from the open side and the back side. They're not right at ball release. Obviously, this is like a 24 frames per second video, but it should cover the basics. All right, so let's go ahead and just do a full mechanical recap. I'll start with the initial move, and we'll advance. And this is kind of how my newest ebook is organized, starting from the setup, going to the initial move, and then after the initial move, going into the drive leg mechanics, hip rotation mechanics, lead leg block, and then we'll go with the upper body mechanics. We'll look at the arm action, trunk rotation mechanics, and the glove side. All right, so let's start at the setup. Really like what he's doing here in the setup. In terms of it looks like a 60-40 here with the tilt a little bit over that rear hip. Big fan of that. I like the hands low. I think that just provides a lot of comfort, and it's going to influence his initial move rhythm, something I talk a lot about in the initial move chapter in my ebook, in terms of how I believe rhythmic movements influence optimal timing, and optimal timing influences the most optimal position. So when we look at the pitching delivery, all of it is timing and positioning. I mean, obviously there's some trump cards in there, but I really like here, as soon as the foot goes up, right, the hands are going to then go up, and this is just going to influence a little bit more rhythm in his initial move, and it's going to, like I said, influence the timing of now when he goes into his drive leg loading pattern. And it's going to be a rhythm of the feet and the hands, how they are synced up, they work together, pendulum acts. All right, so really like the setup, really like the initial move, really like the rhythm, and now descending from peak leg lift. All right, so when we descend here, now we're going to be looking solely at the drive leg mechanics. So absorb, produce, and store. That's a huge concept that I talk a lot about in the ebook. In terms of the drive leg mechanics, we want to absorb incoming energy descending from this leg lift, okay? And what we want to do with that energy that we do absorb is we want to produce ground force energy, and we want to store some energy in the drive leg, and that kind of goes hand in hand with the pelvis and the hip rotation mechanics. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at Hunter Greene coming here, peak leg lift, and now we're going to be descending. All right, this is really good. I really like what he does, because I think, like, if you were to look at like an old school type pitcher, right, like Doug Drabeck, someone that sticks out to me, this would be like, he's a drop and drive guy. Remember how it was kind of like back then when we looked at pitching mechanics, it was like drop or drive or stay tall. Like those are the only two things. I don't necessarily believe in that, but I love what he does, because what we do now within the initial move is we get a little forward momentum going. All right, so you see that as he kind of coils there, and now descending, you're going to see that the lead leg descends into like this kind of cross. I don't know what I would call this. I would say like it's a mechanics, or it's a byproduct of optimal drive leg mechanics, when we can kind of just keep the lead leg neutral and allow our acceleration to stem from our drive leg. But what you have here is you have this tilt of the trunk loading the rear hip, right? And you have the lead leg acting as kind of a counterbalance to influence this move optimally. Hands are already separated, so his head has stayed still throughout this whole kind of movement up until this point. The heel is pointing, so it's going to kind of counter rotate his hips, keep his hips in line until it's time to then to then go. All right, I really like this posture right here. All right, I do a lot of drill stuff like this, just because I think this is what provides a good feedback, a good sensory input for driving from the drive leg. All right. When we have our trunk tilted a little bit, loading that rear hip, loading the drive leg, and our lead leg is kind of just in a neutral stance here, and it's kind of closed off like this. We have our hands separated, right? So you have the glove side and the throwing side separated, and now we're ready to go. So every forward movement from now up where he's at in this point in his delivery is going to be stemming from the drive leg. And let's go ahead and see how we deal with the hip rotation mechanics. So this is something that I think is a commonality of highly elite pitchers, is looking at like the positioning, knee, foot, rear hip, is looking at the position of this. And now as he enters the drive phase, notice how the positioning of that, now the camera angle moves a little bit in that left view, but how it stays put for a long time. That's that storing of energy within the drive leg mechanics, right? Okay. And that's something that I think is, I mean, you look across the board, man, and a lot of guys that produce as much power output as Hunter Greene does, that's a huge piece to that. All right. So now we're going to be looking at the timing of the hip rotation mechanics, something that I call retract and rotate. So we typically see this timing mechanism of the elbow into retraction as the knee kind of shoots down. Basically what it is the hips initiating this rotation as the throwing arm is now getting into his retracted state. The biggest difference between lower velocity pitchers and higher velocity pitchers is the amount of retraction they can get with the arm at the point in which they are anchored down. And we can see this here at the full anchor point. And I mean, it's from the side view, so it's going to be a little swayed, but typically trunk neutral, hand up, elbow in line with shoulder, going into the arm action. And the back foot positioning gives us a good indication of where the hips are, right? Depending on how we kind of rotate our ankle, if we evert or we just rotate the foot. But landing in knee flexion, hips into rotation, trunk neutral, or the elbows into retraction. And now we just launch from what I call launch from stretch, creating authentic separation through segmentation. And then the arm gets pulled through as the hip rotation now initiates the trunk to rotate. The arm gets pulled through, and it's no accident why he can throw so hard. I mean, look at the whip, right? The whip's crazy here. And he's got such long levers, and he's able to produce and so much rotational energy through his ability to segment. Oh man, that's nice. And then another thing that I'm going to take from the ebook is this identification of are we pulling our glove side in, or is our trunk going to get our glove side, right? So watch the glove side. And now watch how the trunk actually then goes and gets it. This for me is going to then influence even greater arm acceleration because of its time now to decelerate, right? So the trunk goes and gets the glove side, pulling the arm into release. Pulling sensation is going to influence a higher rate of acceleration. And now we're late launch, throwing shoulder in front of the glove side shoulder. And beautiful. And then watch how the arm bends to give even more time to decelerate. So a few things, obviously we can look at any pitcher that is good and throws hard and pretty much do the exact same thing we did with Hunter Greene. I think something for me that separates Hunter Greene is the move descending into peak leg lift, right? The positioning of which, he has his hand fully separated from his glove. Lead leg is neutral with a little cross that's going to aid in more acceleration down the slope because his foot has more space now to cover. His trunk is tilted just a little bit, not getting stuck over the rubber, but tilted to the point where he can feel that load of the rear glute. And now everything driving down the mound, right? So you just notice like the positioning of his hips. Everything driving down the mound as we sink into the slope is going to then be directly from the drive leg and not anything unauthentic where like the lead leg gets aggressive and pulls the drive leg early, or we have unauthentic movement patterns that are going to then get us out of place. So You can watch that rotate here with the back foot peeling from the ground as the elbow. Let me get this. I don't know if I can move that, but watch the elbow and watch the foot. Foot's going to rotate, elbow's going to retract. See that? That's that timing. And I did a whole chapter in the ebook on what I call the velocity enhancing move. And it's basically like, I don't know how to word this to the point where it's not going to get misinterpreted, but you can look at heel connection, you can look at heel disconnection, but I'm not huge on that. It's just the timing in which these hips rotate, right? The timing in when these hips rotate in relation to the hand getting into that position ready to rock and fire. All right, and the timing in which the front foot is going to anchor down. So you can look at the back foot, you can look at the back knee, and you can obviously have to look at the landing foot and the throwing hand, right? So you're basically maintaining stored energy, stored energy, stored energy, stored energy, and now boom, snap it into release. So that snaps, and at that timing in which it snaps, the front foot is getting approaching touchdown, and then it touches down, then we anchor down. So now we build up all of this energy, and it's like boom, it's released at that correct moment in time. And it's almost a resisting, but not resisting, because we do want our hips into rotation. But how long can we store? How long can we keep this energy stored in that drive leg? And then at what point, looking at the hand and the lead foot, at what point does the front foot then anchor down in relation to the hand position and the elbow position in retracted state, but above the shoulder? I know that's a lot. I'd encourage you guys, if you love and enjoy these deep dives, check out that ebook, therobbyrowshow.com/ebooks, and you'll get a full understanding of that. But Hunter Greene obviously is going to be around for a good while, and I'm really excited. Look forward to watching him continue to throw freaking cheddar cheese biscuits, and at least he wears pants up too. That's a little velo there. All right, dudes, Robby Rowe here. Thank you for watching that video. If you're interested in booking your own mechanical analysis, you can click that link right there. Also tell you a little bit about the service and what it entails. Hit that link right there. Subscribe, please. You can also check out that video right there, which is related to the video that you just watched, if you want to get some more context on that. All right, guys. Much love. God bless. Till next time. See ya.
Strike three! You're out!